There's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah, I think it's called Puerto Rico.
The most repulsive racial jokes about Latinos.
Hateful.
So incredibly crude.
They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters.
Shut up, bitch! You suck, fuck you.
That's disgusting.
Well, it's not my concern.
Joe Biden stated that our supporters are garbage.
That's terrible. That's what it says. Remember Hillary, she said deplorable, and then she said irredeemable, right? But she said deplorable, that didn't work out. Garbage, I think, is worse, right? But he doesn't know, you have to please forgive him. Please forgive him, for he not knoweth what he said.
That was 4 days ago, 5 days ago.
You are fake news.
It's not against the law, ho, fuck you.
Come on, man. Give me a little break here.
Let's go, Brandon.
Very fake news.
All right, America, go to the YouTube right now.
Dude, Matt straight up sucks.
How dare you?
All right, go.
In 5, 4, 3.
I can't do it. We'll do it live. We'll do it live. Fuck it. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fuck it, we'll do it live.
Hello and welcome to the show. It is Matt Christiansen live for Wednesday, October 30th, 2024. Thank you for tuning in and happy Halloween Eve. The bit has commenced. Everyone was wondering if he would do it. Yes, of course he would. Making the best use of the opportunity, Donald Trump, just an hour or two ago, arrived at his Green Bay, Wisconsin campaign rally in a garbage truck. In fact, he gave his speech tonight in the orange garbage man vest. And it really feels like this has become a campaign of destiny. I know the Democrats have their fortification tricks to match. It's hard not to feel optimistic with scenes like these. They have no match for it. How bad do you feel if you're Kamala? Last night she gives what is supposed to be the speech of her campaign, her closing pitch, her final message to earn your vote. 24 hours later, all anybody can talk about is garbage trucks. She got upstaged by trash. She makes trash look amazing, but what else is new? And how Halloween appropriate that the ghost of Joe Biden strikes again, that he's behind all of this. Is it Joe's vengeance? I always think there's a little bit more going on in that old man brain than we realize. I know it's basically lost, so it's hard to attribute clever scheming to him. But I know this guy hates everybody who pushed him out of the way. And even if he's not intentionally doing it, it's like there's that little spark in his old man brain that causes him to sabotage the Kamala campaign. Maybe this is the final one. We'll see. We'll discuss all of that. By the way, happy birthday Friday, both to my assistant and call screener, Tim. He is in the Discord server right now. And my mom. They share a birthday. Happy birthday to both of you on Friday. We'll get to calls after I get through the story of the week, garbage everything. I will also talk about Kamala's speech and some other items. But if you would like to call the show about any of these topics or even the end of the prior show, I know there's still some thoughts about that. You're welcome to do that. Hop in the Discord server linked in the description. There are instructions once you get into the server for how to participate. And you can ask Call Screener Tim for any help if you need it. And please say happy birthday to Call Screener Tim if you do head into the Discord server. And of course, I'll catch up with your super chats before we're done tonight as well. And hey, don't forget, our friends at Hero Soap Company have some new offerings. Of course, if you listen to my streams, you know you can subscribe to to Hero Soap and get high-quality, all-natural soap sent straight to your door each and every month. You also know you can get my signature soaps, Timberline and Old West, but you may not know there are new offerings for fall. You can get in on the pumpkin spice everything with Hero Soap's Pumpkin Spice Body Wash, or you can try the new Bay Rum Bar Soap. It's the very same formula that scrubbed actual Pirates of the Caribbean centuries ago, so it will certainly scrub you with a sweet and spicy scent. Both available for a limited time, so get on it. Use promo code MCListener at HeroSoapCompany.com for 10% off your entire order. 10% off all Hero Soap offerings at HeroSoapCompany.com. Promo code MCListener. Find more information on Hero Soap plus other great offers from the rest of my friendly listener-owned businesses at not at their website, though you can go there too. That's great if you do. MattChristiansenMedia.com/deals is where you find all the information on my friendly listener-owned businesses, deals by listeners, for listeners. A couple quick things to get through before we get into the heart of the news. I mentioned on Sunday that I was going to switch over the podcast audio feeds of this show. Obviously, the old Matt and Blonde show is gone. I would prefer for those of you who want to stick around and listen that you don't have to go find something else, and it's automatic for you. You don't have to take any additional steps. I hope I've achieved that. That transition is now complete. If you listen to the show on a podcast audio platform, you should now see the MC Live feed where you used to see the Matt and Blonde show feed before. Should be no interruptions, no need to find a new feed or subscribe to something new. If you have any problem with the podcast audio feeds, please just send me an email. I'll see if I can get that cleaned up for you. But as far as I'm aware, they are operational now. And I mentioned on Sunday that I had some election night appearances planned, that I'll be on some streams you may know about. I didn't want to preempt anybody. I didn't want to make any premature announcements and let people make their own announcements, but I can reveal what those will be now. At 9 Eastern on election night, so this is Tuesday, I will be on the Lotus Eaters stream. They're going to have rotating panels all night, so I believe when I join, Carl Benjamin himself, otherwise known as Sargon, he will be there. That should be fun. I haven't talked to him for a long time. And I should be on for about an hour, as far as I understand, somewhere at 9 to 10 p.m. hour in there. And that'll be a good time to talk to them because we'll have returns and results coming in. And then at a still to be scheduled time, I will also join my friend Frank over at Quite Frankly. He's going to have a long stream on election night too. I don't know what time I'm going to join, but I will be hopping in there. I'll stick around for a little while. And then, and so stay tuned for the announcement about what time that'll be. I'll post it on Twitter once I'm aware, or maybe I'll know on Sunday and I can tell you then. But also a week from tonight, of course, I'll be streaming here, not election night, but Wednesday night, the following night. And per our usual tradition before, Frank has agreed to come back on the first Wednesday night of each month. So my friend Frank will probably be the first official guest of this new iteration of the show. And we'll talk about whatever's going on with the election results as they exist at that point in time, a week from tonight. So look forward to that. Now, moving into the news, in case you missed the video I posted this morning, it was about the Justice Department suing the state of Virginia, trying to force Virginia to keep non-citizens on their voter rolls. And at almost the exact same time that I posted that video, the Supreme Court intervened and will now allow Virginia to do that removal of non-citizens from their voter rolls. The district court on Friday, federal district court, had ordered Virginia to place those non-citizens back on the rolls. Now, what are all the details of this legal dispute? Well, that's what my video is about. So if you're interested in how this is even a case, I've explained that to the best of my ability in what I posted this morning. You can check that out, of course, on my channel or on my website homepage, mattchristiansenmedia.com. And one other quick story I want to mention before GarbageGate. Also, recall Paul Pelosi attacker David DePape in San Francisco. That was 2 years ago already, October 28th, 2022. It was right before the midterm elections last time around. This weirdo shows up at the Pelosi home and hammers Paul Pelosi in the head. Much of it caught on police body cam. And of course, there were a million strange things about that episode. But last November, David DePape was convicted on federal charges and sentenced to 30 years in prison. He was convicted on 5 state charges in June, but yesterday he was sentenced to life in prison without parole on these California state charges. So I guess we have finally found out what it takes to go to prison in San Francisco and stay in prison in California or San Francisco. Just attack a Pelosi. Or maybe this is exactly what it takes to bury the truth of what happened in that bizarre scenario. Just lock that guy up and never let him out. Now, at face value, of course, hammering a guy in the head, which he did, it's on the video, that's a serious crime. I'm not disputing that point. But it's notable that there are actual murderers in California who don't get life or who are released, who are eligible for parole. I was just looking at some examples earlier today from recent years. In June, an LA woman who killed 2 boys in a crosswalk with her car was convicted of murder, not manslaughter, murder. She got 15 years to life. Now, it's possible she might be in prison for life, but that's even still a more lenient sentence than what David DePape got. She ran over 2 young boys in a crosswalk, convicted of murder, more lenient sentence. You got this case out of Modesto in last September. A man convicted in a double murder, torture, and rape case was released on parole after 40 years served. Even he was eligible for parole, apparently. In San Jose last December, a man who carried out a Satanist-inspired thrill kill murder was released after 15 years served. He and a friend, as teenagers, though they were prosecuted as adults, so they were 15, 16 years old at the time. They were convicted as adults, though. They decided they just wanted to know what it's like to kill a guy. So they befriended another teenager for the sole purpose of killing him, and they took turns stabbing him to death. That guy's been in prison for about 15 years. He's out now. He's out in San Jose. So in California, I guess you can actually kill kids, and not just abortion. I mean, you can kill kids walking around and get out easier than if you had a drink gone wrong with a Pelosi. So take note of the California justice system. Now, of course, what really matters this week is exactly who is garbage. Are the Puerto Ricans garbage? Are you garbage for supporting Trump? I didn't really expect the last week of the campaign season to be everybody pointing fingers and trying to figure out who's garbage and who's not and what people really meant. And really, this is all about a grammatical misunderstanding. It's not an accusation of being garbage at all, according to Joe Biden. But we'll have to figure out exactly who is and is not garbage and who's responsible for all of this. We'll get to Trump riding in a garbage truck momentarily. But we'll back up and set the context. Of course, all of this stems from Donald Trump's Madison Square Garden rally over the weekend. And as I played on the stream on Sunday, this was what AOC and Tim Walz were watching. Comedian Tony Hinchcliffe gave the joke heard around the world when he said that Puerto Rico is a floating island of garbage.
There's literally a floating island of garbage in the middle of the ocean right now. Yeah. I think it's called Puerto Rico.
And of course, Democrats and progressives have been raging ever since. Oh, where is the decency? Where is the decorum? Say the same people who called the event a Nazi rally in the first place. See Tim Walz. We'll get to him in a minute. And of course, the joke maybe was exactly the sort of bait intended to have Democrats and progressives doing exactly that sort of pearl clutching all week. If so, well played. But okay, it's a joke, whatever. You can think it's poor taste, I guess, but this was some sort of political apocalypse for some reason. And it's all that Democrats and progressives have discussed for the last few days. It doesn't matter that your country is actually descended into garbage. What matters is that someone made a possibly poor taste ethnic joke about garbage. That's what really matters. That's what we should be upset about. And so, of course, that brings us to Biden's commentary. Captain Unity has struck again. Nobody's pearl clutching harder than Joe Biden himself. This guy who constantly tells us that we need to unify and come together and all this. All his opposition are MAGA extremists. He said that as he shook his fists in front of that red backdrop in front of Independence Hall. Well, in his commentary last night, it's not that Puerto Rico is garbage. It's Trump supporters who are garbage, he allegedly said. And this was on a Voto Latino, get out the vote call, last night to, of course, pander to Hispanics on Kamala's behalf. And I guess he pandered just a little bit too hard. Now, I'm going to play the longer version of his commentary, a little bit longer than the brief one that's circulating, so you get a sense of the full context.
Donald Trump has no character. He doesn't give a damn about the Latino community. He's failed businessman. He only cares about the billionaire friends he has and accumulating wealth for those at the top. He says immigrants are poisoning the blood of our country. Give me a break. He wants to do away with the birthright citizenship. Who the hell has said that in the last 100 years? And just the other day, a speaker at his rally called Puerto Rico a floating island of garbage. Well, let me tell you something. I don't know the Puerto Rican that I know, or Puerto Rico where I'm in my home state of Delaware. They're good, decent, honorable people. The only garbage I see floating out there is his supporters. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable, and it's un-American. It's totally contrary to everything we've done, everything we've been.
Now, obviously, the controversy is, did he or did he not say that Trump supporters are garbage? I think it's pretty clear that he did, but the White House and Biden have an explanation otherwise. But there are actually a lot of nuggets in that commentary that are interesting beyond just that point. First of all, who questions birthright citizenship? Who would question such a thing? Birthright citizenship is an incorrect constitutional understanding. It is an incorrect understanding of the 14th Amendment because citizenship is awarded to those who are subject to the jurisdiction thereof. That is the language of the 14th Amendment. That's a separate conversation, a separate video, but he acts like it would be insane to question birthright citizenship. No, questioning birthright citizenship is the correct understanding of the 14th Amendment. But I do find it funny that Joe Biden is pandering to Latinos on the basis of birthright citizenship. Is he implying that they love their anchor babies? Why does he think Latinos care so much about birthright citizenship? Explain more, Joe Biden. You notice for a second there, he was that close to saying that he was from Puerto Rico. But then he pivoted to say, well, all the Puerto Ricans I knew in Delaware. Now, I don't know what sort of vibrant Puerto Rican community Delaware may or may not have. I actually did read earlier today that apparently there are some in Wilmington, so maybe there's legitimacy to it. I don't know. But I did look up states with Puerto Rican concentration, and Delaware is not listed in the top 15, meaning the Delaware Puerto Rican population is less than 0.5% of the state's population overall. I'm not saying it didn't happen. Maybe Joe Biden did ally with the Puerto Rican gangsters against Corn Pop down at the swimming pool. I know a lot of things happened down there, so maybe it's possible. I'm just saying that Biden's claim about how close he was with the Puerto Ricans in Delaware, I have some doubts about. But to the main point, of course, to anyone listening, you hear that quote, what do you hear? Joe Biden says the only garbage is his supporters, is Trump supporters. There's really only one way to interpret that. Trump supporters are garbage. But that's a grammatical misunderstanding that we're supposed to believe, according to Biden and the White House. A grammatical misunderstanding. This guy has amazing command of vocabulary, grammar, enunciation. More on that in a moment. But as I mentioned, is it possible that there's some Biden sabotage here? Again, not like he sat down and created the scheme, but that there's just so much anger and resentment deep in that old man brain that he just manifests a gaffe like this, even unintentionally, because he hates Kamala and the people who pushed him out so much that he just can't help himself. But first, before we get to Biden's explanation, let's talk Trump's response. First at his rally last night, and then at his rally just hours ago, or maybe still ongoing right now. But shortly after this happened last night, Trump was informed at his rally in Allentown, Pennsylvania by Marco Rubio, who was campaigning with him. And Trump immediately compared the moment to Hillary's famous basket of deplorables line in 2016, and he urged everyone to forgive Joe because, like always, Joe has no idea what he's even talking about.
But I have breaking news for you, Mr. President. You may not have heard this. Just moments ago, Joe Biden stated that our supporters are garbage.
Wow, that's terrible. That's what it says. That's what it says. Remember Hillary? She said deplorable. And then she said irredeemable, right? But she said deplorable. That didn't work out. Garbage, I think, is worse, right? But he doesn't know. You have to please forgive him. Please forgive him, for he not knoweth what he said.
And then all last night and throughout the day, everyone's wondering, will Trump exceed the McDonald's stunt? Will he drive a garbage truck? Will he ride in a garbage truck? Will he embrace this garbage meme and make the best of it? Of course he did. He had a rally this evening in Green Bay, Wisconsin. As you can see, he gets off the plane.
The scary part is
in his garbage man vest.
It seems to be kind of normal that we would hear this kind of rhetoric, and
he's walking off the Trump plane, and then he gets into a garbage truck and greets reporters.
How do you like my garbage truck? This truck is in honor of Kamala and Joe Biden. How do you like my garbage?
Okay. And I guess this must be the garbage truck this must be the garbage worker man they found. I know Vivek Ramaswamy did some of this earlier today too. I want to hear the conversations and the phone calls of Trump campaign staffers. We got to find a garbage man in Wisconsin quick. We only have a couple hours. You got to find a guy. This is the lucky guy they found. Apparently, he gets to drive Trump around in a garbage truck. Trump goes to the stage in Green Bay. Brett Favre was actually at this campaign rally too. So of all the hilarious things going on, you got Trump walking up to talk in a garbage man vest. You got Brett Favre talking shit about Joe Biden in his endearing Southern drawl. You want to talk about classic Americana? I mean, that's this right here. You talk about a campaign of destiny, the energy, the memes, the creativity, the fun. All of that is on the Trump side right now, and this was great. This was the best use of the moment that they could have possibly made. And so we'll see. We'll see what sort of result this produces. But of course, Joe Biden has his explanation for what happened. No, that's not funny because it's all based on a misunderstanding. I didn't say any of that. I didn't say Trump supporters are garbage. Now, I think Joe Biden would agree with the premise that Trump himself is garbage. So even if I accept Joe's explanation, I think Trump's garbage response still holds. Or maybe just based on his alliance with Tony Hinchcliffe, although as we'll get to in a moment, Trump, I guess, is not standing by that alliance very strongly. But according to Joe Biden in the White House, it's just all of us who misheard and misunderstood what Joe Biden said. He didn't say the only garbage is his supporters, as in plural, Trump supporters. He actually said the only garbage is his supporter, apostrophe S, as in possessive. So he's talking about the only garbage being the garbage of Tony Hinchcliffe and his joke. Here is the official White House explanation.
The White House said Biden was referring to the rally rhetoric as garbage, releasing a transcript showing supporters as singular, as if to refer to the comedian. Later in the evening, the president writing on social media, I referred to the hateful rhetoric about Puerto Rico spewed by Trump's supporter at his Madison Square Garden rally as garbage, which is the only word I can think of to describe it. His demonization of Latinos is unconscionable. That's all I meant to say.
That's an awfully awkward way to phrase it, if that's what he meant. Though, I guess Joe Biden is no stranger to awkward phrasing. It wouldn't be the first time. But yes, it all comes down to an apostrophe. The Washington Post is fully behind the explanation. Headline, did Biden call Trump supporters garbage? It comes down to an apostrophe. From the story, quote, the White House's version of the transcript initially cited supporters, so I guess they changed it. They did have the plural supporters in there, and then they decided, oh wait, no, it was plural possessive. Initially cited supporters, plural possessive, before it was changed to the singular possessive. So there was some scrambling after the fact from the White House. No, it's just Tony Hinchcliffe. That's what they decided. So it was plural possessive before it was changed to the singular possessive supporters, suggesting it was aimed at just Hinchcliffe, which, as noted, is entirely plausible. The context is clearly Biden talking about Hinchcliffe's remark. Biden often speaks in non sequiturs, failing to finish his thoughts and shifting course mid-sentence, including in the Delaware comments that preceded his garbage remark. So Biden is both confused and stammering, but also very grammatically precise. Singular possessive, not plural possessive, not plural. Great. Thank you for the clarification. Now, even if I were to accept this, which of course I don't, I certainly believe deep in that old man brain, what's left of it, he thinks Trump is garbage. He thinks Trump supporters are garbage. Anybody associated with Trump, anybody who opposes him in even the mildest way is garbage. I have no doubt about that. But if you think that that's unfair, well, it's not like Joe Biden is any stranger to smearing half the country or smearing Trump supporters. There have been several speeches in the last couple of years. He had one in Tempe, Arizona, last year. And he said the MAGA threat. Who's the MAGA threat? The MAGA threat, I guess anybody that supports MAGA. It's a threat to the brick and mortar of our democratic institutions. It's also a threat to the character of our nation that gives our Constitution life, that binds us together as Americans. A common cause. None of this is surprising, though. They've tried to govern that way before. Thank God they've failed. They haven't given up. What is the MAGA threat? What if I just like MAGA? Unspecified. Then there was the Independence Hall speech before the midterms a couple years ago. This is when I was talking about with the red backdrop and the angry fists looking like a Sith Lord. Very non-threatening one, I guess. But yeah, everyone remembers the content of that speech. In part, Donald Trump and the MAGA Republicans represent an extremism that threatens the very foundations of our republic. And of course, in fairness, he did say that not all Republicans are MAGA extremists, not even most. But then he went on to say that the party is dominated by Trump. So which is it? If I like Trump, am I a MAGA extremist threat to the country? This commentary would imply so. So even if it would be easier to accept Joe Biden's commentary about being garbage as a mistake if this guy didn't have a routine track record of smearing half the country as threats to the country itself. But Karine Jean-Pierre, God bless her, she still technically has a job to do. And she's telling reporters, no, Biden did not say what you heard him say. This was earlier today.
Does he think less of Americans who support Trump than he does of those who do not? Yeah. And two, why is he using that kind of rhetoric? How is that presidential?
So a couple of things. So just to clarify, he was not calling Trump supporters garbage, which is why he this is why he wanted to make sure that we put out a statement that clarified what he meant and what he was trying to say. And so just want to make that very clear for folks who are watching.
Yeah, well, if she said it, it must be true, I guess. But she didn't get into the deep grammatical details. What about the singular and the progressive? Possessive, rather. Anyway. That brings us to Kamala's response. And Kamala has not had a lot to say about it. She was asked about this earlier today, and she said, well, I think Biden clarified what he meant. And, in general, I strongly disagree with any criticism of people based on who they vote for. Okay. The problem, though, is that your running mate, a part of this ticket, Tim Walz, he says people who support this guy are Nazis, or at least the people who participated in this Madison Square Garden rally that is the source of all the problems here. Walz said over the weekend, speaking at a campaign event in Henderson, Nevada, quote, Donald Trump's got this big rally going at Madison Square Garden. There's a direct parallel to a big rally that happened in the mid-1930s at Madison Square Garden. There isn't, other than it happens to be at a venue named the same thing, even though it's not even the same venue physically. And don't think that he doesn't know for 1 second exactly what they're doing there. And of course, Tim Walz is referring to this supposed Nazi rally in 1939. I say supposed, not because I'm saying it's not, but just because it's always granted. Like, oh, they called it a Nazi rally, so it must be. Like I was talking about on Sunday, I need to read more about this before I grant their premise. Anyway, asked to comment more on the statement, Walz told a Wisconsin reporter, yeah, he stands by the comment, or at least he's not going to back down from it.
You said over the weekend, referring to it, there's a direct parallel to a big rally that happened in the mid-1930s at Madison Square Garden. Well, look, you were comparing that rally to a Nazi rally?
Look, I'm comparing it to the hate that came out of this, and I think they confirmed that.
You stand by that comparison, though, to a Nazi rally?
Look, the rally, you saw it for yourself. I'll let the American public make the decision of what they saw.
What about you, though?
So I know what I saw, and I'll just leave it at that.
Okay, so Kamala believes you shouldn't be attacked or smeared for who you support or who you vote for. But also, if you go to a Trump rally, you're a Nazi or you're at a Nazi rally. Campaign needs to decide on its messaging about this. In other reaction to Puerto Rico garbage gate, Trump actually addressed the joke, the Tony Hinchcliffe joke that spawned all of this, for the first time last night in an interview with Sean Hannity on Fox News. And Trump says he had no part of bringing in Tony Hinchcliffe. In fact, he doesn't know who Tony Hinchcliffe is. Total disavowal might be an overstatement, but this is some very strong distancing, if not for the joke itself, for the guy or from the guy who said the joke.
I was told and made aware that you had no idea about this comedian who made comments.
I have no idea who he is. Somebody said there was a comedian that joked about Puerto Rico or something, and I have no idea who he is. Never saw him, never heard of him, and don't want to hear of him. But I have no idea. They put a comedian in, which everybody does. You throw comedians in. You don't vet them and go crazy. It's nobody's fault. But somebody said some bad things. Now, what they've done is taken somebody that has nothing to do with the party, has nothing to do with us, said something, and they try and make a big deal. But I don't know who it is. I don't even know who put him in. And I can't imagine it's a big deal.
And I get it. It's a political answer. And for all I know, it's totally true. Maybe Trump doesn't know who Tony Hinchcliffe is. Maybe Trump had no part in putting Tony Hinchcliffe into the rally. Maybe Trump wasn't there when he heard it. I'm not saying that's a lie. It doesn't make that answer any less disappointing to me, though. It's a big opportunity to say, I apologize for nothing, and to put the burden on Democrats to explain why they're so weak and pathetic. Democrats are the party of weakness. Democrats are the party of being offended. Democrats are the party of suppressing speech. We, the Republicans, if I'm Trump speaking, we are the party of strength. We're the party of a fun time. Yes, we're the party of jokes, even if jokes go too far sometimes, if you think it did in this case. That is the correct answer on principle. That's the answer that I'd like to hear. And even if you think he's right to be politically cautious, I think there's political benefit to giving that answer too, to just telling the people who are offended to stuff it. Because Hinchcliffe's joke changed exactly zero minds. Okay, there is nobody out there who is having trouble affording groceries or having trouble paying rent, who's on the fence about who they want to vote for. And it was Tony Hinchcliffe's joke at a campaign rally that's, I guess I have to vote for Kamala Harris now. I've been really struggling for the last 4 years financially, but I don't like that there was a crude ethnic joke made generally on Trump's behalf by some other guy. That's not a real person. That person doesn't exist. So I don't really see a downside to taking the strong position, putting Democrats on the defensive, make them own their own weakness, their own offendedness. And Trump should really say, well, talk about what's offensive. I'm offended by the state of the country. I'm offended by the fact that they've ruined it. I'm not offended by some comedy routine. And it shows you the priorities of these people. They care more about whose feelings are hurt by a joke than they do about your prosperity or your family. So there's an opportunity to put Democrats on the defensive here. I don't think it was taken. I get the political calculation. I just find it disappointing. But this is the thing. Like, I was kind of bummed out about that last night and into today because I thought, why do you have to do this like disavowal bit? And then right away, he's riding in a garbage truck in Wisconsin and all of that. You don't really have to worry about it because he kind of seized the moment back anyway. So even though I'm disappointed in that answer, I don't know that it really changes the overall win and value of this interaction. And lastly, before we get into the calls, I got to talk about Kamala's big rally. And as I mentioned at the top of the show, that's the other side of this. It's not just that it's kind of this fun, energetic, meme moment for Trump. It's the fact that it stole all the whatever energy there was from Kamala's speech in D.C. last night. Nobody cares. Now we're watching the garbage truck bit, okay? But maybe Kamala is gaining momentum. That's what we're supposed to believe. This is a massive event with tens of thousands of people. It's her big closing pitch, Pledge to America. That was what the speech was called. And this was in the Ellipse across from the White House in D.C. In fact, the very same site of Donald Trump's January 6th speech. Now, the Kamala campaign is saying there were 75,000 people there. That would be even more, in fact, much more than Trump had on that fateful day. So who exactly was there? That's the more interesting question about this event. And I'm going to get to those in a moment, because if the reports are true, the claims are true, it's awfully suspicious and interesting. But first, yes, I'm going to make you suffer through just a little bit of this speech. But don't worry, it won't be long. I do find it interesting that this is Kamala Harris's closing pitch, okay? This is her final sales pitch to the country to earn your vote. So she's going to open with what? Does she have some grand vision for the future? Does she have something to unveil? She promised to give everybody one free, one Willie Brown for free, one Willie Brown experience or something like that. No, there's nothing creative. There's nothing different. There's nothing new at all. In fact, it's so old and stale that she's going to go back to January 6th. She started for several minutes of this speech, not just rehashing January 6th, but outright lying about January 6th. Still.
He is the person who stood at this very spot nearly 4 years ago and sent an armed mob to the United States Capitol to overturn the will of the people in a free and fair election. Americans died as a result of that attack. 140 law enforcement officers were injured because of that attack.
I don't know if that's an ambulance or a kazoo or what's going on with whatever that sound in the background was, but okay. Then an armed mob. Who was armed? One guy had guns in his car, parked in the vicinity of the Capitol. Two other guys had handguns, quote, on Capitol grounds. But if I'm reading this correctly, they never entered the building. No protester or rioter ever used a gun as a weapon that day. The only gun activity was the shooting of Ashley Babbitt. And I was reading through the fact check just to make sure I didn't miss anything on this. An armed mob. This is PolitiFact through the Austin American-Statesman. I love the end sentence. You got to keep in mind, the definition of armed is not legally limited to guns. It also refers to any weapon used for defense or offense and as a means of protection. In fact, other items like bats, crutches, flagpoles, skateboards, fire extinguishers, that all counts as armed. That's why every skate park is de facto armed. You didn't know that, but every skate park is by definition an armed environment. Of course, people died. The only directly attributable death to January 6th, of course, was Ashley Babbitt, shot by Capitol Police Officer Michael Byrd. There was a drug overdose. There were 3 natural causes deaths. In fact, there were 4, but the source I read, they didn't call Brian Sicknick a natural causes death, even though he had a stroke. They said he died after being attacked because he caught like a whiff of pepper spray. And this after they lied about the fire extinguisher thing. People, the deaths on January 6th are just like the COVID deaths from motorcycle crashes. You know, they're like the biggest stretches you could possibly achieve. But we all know that. I'm not breaking any news there, of course. The point is that Kamala is betting, after 4 years of the country struggling, the country becoming an actual garbage pile, that we all still supposedly care more about January 6th justice, as though plenty of justice, in fact, in excess of justice, has not been achieved. It was probably the most aggressive or largest scale federal prosecution in the history of this country. So even if you are really, really mad about January 6th, I think we've done plenty of January 6th litigation, prosecution. We'll consider that settled and we'll move on. The fact that she bets that Americans care about January 6th to that degree more than they care about their own prosperity tells you a lot about where their mindset is. But okay, if January 6th doesn't sell you, Kamala has more. How about some cleverly written, meaningless lines? Like, how about this one? That's who Trump is. He's a big mean guy, but that's not who we are. That's who he is, but that's not who we are. Okay. And Trump is going to come into office with an enemies list, but Kamala will have a to-do list. And then in the end, her pledge to America, she pledges a bunch more meaningless things. Like she's going to listen to you, and she's going to listen to the experts. And also she's going to care about you a whole lot.
Donald Trump has spent a decade trying to keep the American people divided and afraid of each other. That is who he is. But America, I am here tonight to say that is not who we are. That is not who we are. On day one, if elected, Donald Trump would walk into that office with an enemies list. When elected, I will walk in with a to-do list. And here is my pledge to you. I pledge to seek common ground and common sense solutions to make your life better. I am not looking to score political points. I am looking to make progress. I pledge to listen to experts, to those who will be impacted by the decisions I make, and to people who disagree with me. Unlike Donald Trump, I don't believe people who disagree with me are the enemy. He wants to put them in jail. I'll give them a seat at the table.
Yes, please, let's listen to the experts more. We didn't do enough listening to the experts in recent years. To believe that a Kamala presidency would be some moderate, bipartisan, compromise presidency, of course, is to deny her entire political career prior, and of course, her term as vice president in this administration. I'm going to put people who disagree with me in power. Who would that be? Liz Cheney? Adam Kinzinger? The people that you're friendly with precisely because they agree with you now and endorse your campaign? Who's this person who opposes her that she's actually going to listen to? Unnamed. And this nonsense about like, oh, if you disagree with me, I'm going to give you a seat at the table. Your administration worked with social media companies to censor people who disagreed with you. Not only will she not give you a seat at her table, she won't give you a seat at your own table. She will chase you off the internet. She'll get Mark Zuckerberg and friends to give you the boot if she disagrees with you. She's a part of the administration that did that censorship campaign. On a massive scale. In fact, that federal judge called it the greatest attack on free speech in the history of the country, something to that effect. But beyond all of that, it's also just very poor leadership philosophy. Oh, if you elect me, I pledge to listen to that guy over there to tell me how to make decisions, that expert. And I'm going to assemble a whole panel of other people to do my thinking for me. When we elect somebody, we elect a leader to make decisions. We don't elect someone who's just going to listen to a bunch of other people we didn't actually vote for. That's not what any of this is. That's not what leadership is. It sounds nice, I guess. Look how much I care. Look how much I listen to other people. Yeah, but nobody voted for those other people. So that really betrays the spirit of the system, doesn't it? It's not philosophically very well thought out. But what about this to-do list? Kamala says, oh, I got a to-do list. Trump's going to come with an enemies list. I'm going to come with a to-do list. Okay, what's on this to-do list? Well, in fairness, she did drop a few policies. It's mostly the same tired crap you've already heard. She's going to go after grocery price gougers, as though that's even a real thing. We've heard that a million times. Tax cuts for the middle class, her expanded child tax credit, and of course, lots and lots of abortion. You can take a tax credit for your kid, or you can just kill your kid and avoid all the hassle. But there was one very surprising entry on this to-do list of hers. Kamala is going to start deporting illegals. That's right. If you show up in this country illegally, Kamala is going to boot you right out.
And when I am president, we will quickly remove those who arrive here unlawfully, prosecute the cartels, and give Border Patrol the support they so desperately need.
You can tell the supporters are kind of confused there. Do we cheer that? I thought we were amnesty people. I thought we were open borders people. Now we're cheering deportation? Okay. All right. That's news to me. And implicit and demonstrated, of course, is that they didn't do that while she's been vice president and borders are. When I'm president, you're part of the administration that didn't do those things. But hey, if you're not sold on any of that, Kamala does have one more message for you. I think comparatively, it's fairly persuasive. She told a local Michigan reporter yesterday a little bit about her background, something that I think will really inform the decisions that she doesn't defer to others. But Kamala's writers are working overtime, clearly. Listen to this compelling case that she offered.
We have auto workers who are being laid off and those who fear that they might be laid off. The average person can't afford groceries or their rent.
Well, let's start with this. I come from the middle class, and I'll never forget where I come from.
No, it strikes again. The middle class upbringing strikes once again. But yeah, who saw that coming? At least she didn't drop it into the speech. She saved that for the local reporter. But as convincing as that, well, as it isn't, it's just about as true, which is not at all. This whole I came from a middle class a family and upbringing nonsense. Her parents were college professors. They may not have been spectacularly rich, but they had money. She grew up mostly in Montreal. Pretty well-off neighborhood of Montreal. And how did Kamala rise to political power? Well, besides servicing Willie Brown, she did it by courting the wealthiest of San Francisco. Don't take it from me, take it from Politico in 2019 in a Politico magazine article. It's very long, it explains it all, but as the subheading reads, she came to political power at splashy weddings, charity balls, and all the right restaurants. In fact, well, no, never mind. I thought I had a joke there about charity balls and Kamala Harris, but it didn't come together. So I'm gonna leave that aside. No, it doesn't work. There was some joke about her giving. No, it doesn't work. I have to move on. All right. She hobnobbed with San Francisco's moneyed elite and made lasting allies who backed her at every stage of her political career. And you can scroll through and see all the fancy get-togethers that Kamala Harris participated in and all the schmoozing she did to gain the attention and favor of all the wealthy elite of San Francisco. This was the middle-class upbringing, the middle-class rise of Kamala Harris. Anyway, worth a read. But as I mentioned, I really want to get to who was at the Kamala rally, because there's the content of the rally, which is tired and boring, and I probably wasted time even going through. But there's the question of who was there. 75,000 people. Wow, there's a lot of enthusiasm for this woman, even if they can't figure out what to cheer because she's suddenly talking about deportation. Well, Tony Saruga is, I gather, a data analyst of sorts. He's got a resume on LinkedIn and on Twitter about being an executive at this and that. I don't know a lot about the guy, and I don't know how legit this actually is. So I'm just taking this with a grain of salt at face value because I can't analyze these data myself. I don't know what exactly his methods were and how he came to these conclusions. I'm just offering it because if true, it's very interesting, and there are a lot of implications. So this guy, Tony Saruga, apparently tracks cell phone location data, and he has some claims about who was there. And I don't mean specific identity. I just mean like general people who were there. And again, I don't know a lot about this guy's methods. I do know phone location data is available for purchase. Advertisers buy it. The government buys it. It's anonymized, but you can connect some dots if you know the dots, and you can figure out who's who and even track individuals. A lot of this stuff was used to make 2000 Mules. Was that the name of it? Dinesh D'Souza's documentary where they tracked people who they believed to be ballot harvesting in the 2020 election. You can get this cell phone location data. So I assume this guy is collecting that data in much the same way. And again, I haven't verified the data or the methods, but let's just consider what he's saying here. Based on some other stuff he's posted, I kind of doubt he's making it up. I think there's probably some legitimacy to this, but needs to be evaluated. Anyway, he says he has data from 32,000 phones that were at Kamala's rally last night. He says 91% of those, the people who were there, have attended 3 or more Kamala rallies in this campaign. He says 11,000 of them were from the Atlanta area, and 6,500 were from California. And he also has existing data on Antifa and BLM and pro-Palestinian events. And he says 6,100 of these people were linked to 3 or more of those events. And there are also video clips in response to this that appear to show a whole bunch of buses in the DC area immediately around Kamala's speech, implying people bussed in, of course. So if true, if what he's saying about the people who were there where they came from, what sort of associations they have. And again, I emphasize if true, because we don't know, but I can't examine the data necessarily myself. But what does that imply? It implies a massive army of paid Kamala supporters shipped not just here to DC, but shipped to several Kamala events to create the impression of grassroots support where very little exists. Given the crossover, it also implies a strong relationship between the Democrat Party and some of these more violent organizations like Antifa and Black Lives Matter. And it implies that they have an army they can deploy for a variety of reasons. Oh, you need a mob to be mad about George Floyd? Yeah, we can do that. You need a giant crowd for the Kamala rally? Yeah, we can do that. Keep in mind, this was DC, okay? This was not Wyoming. There should be a strong base of Kamala support in DC. In fact, that should be among the most strongly Kamala supporting cities in the country. So if this is what it appears to be, and she actually had to bus potentially paid people in just to attend the event in her stronghold, that is a very weak campaign indeed. But I will leave it at that, and perhaps we will return to that topic with callers. Since I'm a little bit ahead of the top of the hour, maybe in preparation for calls, I'll catch up with a couple super chats. Over on Rumble, Sigabright says everyone should wear a garbage bag poncho when they go to the polling booth. It is a good bit now. I hope it sustains because it is, along with McDonald's, it is one of the major symbols of the campaign now. Over on YouTube and Tippy Stream. And actually, let me catch up on Odyssey really quick. There are a couple over here, and I'll come back to YouTube and Tippy Stream. My mistake. Blanket says, Matt, please remember to refresh the Odyssey chat sometimes because you missed a couple chats on the last stream. My apology for that. It's not even a refresh. Sometimes it has to be scrolled, and I don't see the scroll bar. So I'll try to do better with that. I apologize about that, but thank you for your support for the show. Blankets also says, what do you think about people saying Joe is saying comments like Orange Man supporters are trash to destroy Kamala for doing what they did to him? This is what I'm talking about. Like, I don't think Joe Biden is sitting around I don't think his brain can strategize in that way. But every once in a while, like when he talks about the largest voter fraud organization in the history of the country, he has these little glimmers of what's going on deep in that old man brain. And I think there are little elements of truth in there. And in this case, I don't think he's strategizing to destroy Kamala, but I know deep in there, he hates Kamala. He hates members of the Democratic power establishment who pushed him out. I don't think he's deliberately trying to sabotage anything. I think there's just something deep in there that causes him to do it. Maybe it's just being Joe Biden. You can't help but step on the rakes. And that's exactly what he's doing. Zach Log says, Matt, I am going to be N-wordly. No joke. I had a dream where your new Sunday show was co-hosted by Elmo. You should do this and totally watch the Matt and Muppet show, especially if you got a racist, there is no political solution Muppet. Now everyone go look up the story, The Mayor of Christ Mountain. Well, I get, you can be actually N-wordly. That's fine. I appreciate your support for the show.
I am not going to be niggardly.
Kamala says she's too busy to go on the Joe Rogan show. What is she busy with? Well, amazing speeches with bust-in people. Joe Rogan says they're still negotiating, but she has all these terms. She wants Joe to travel to her, and she only wants to do an hour, last I heard. Blankets also says, Matt, didn't Kamala say to someone you're at the wrong rally for saying Jesus is Lord? And she's talking about the orange man dividing. Yeah, I didn't look closely at that. My understanding is there were some pro-life protesters at a Kamala rally, and they said something like Jesus is Lord, Jesus is King, whatever the saying was. It was some sort of Jesus reference. And she said, you're at the wrong rally. Now, if I wanted to be charitable, I think you could say she was responding to their pro-life protest. That's the best I could, maybe it wasn't in response to Jesus, but it was in response to their anti-abortion perspective. It's not much better. She's still dead wrong, of course. I don't know. I don't know how you make that commentary look good, but that's the best I could do for her. Maybe it wasn't a rejection of Christ. It was just a rejection of their abortion position, but it's not like her abortion position is good. So kind of pick your poison there. Okay. Good on Odyssey. Good on D-Live. Let me catch up with just a couple before the top of the hour on Tippy and YouTube. Long Dong John says, Matt and I were about to make love when an old guy with a red tie barged in and said, stop. Oh, this was the reference to the porn ad. No sodomy while I'm your representative. It sounds like a based representative, a based member of Congress. He stared at us uncomfortably. Don't let the Republicans get between your relationship with Matt. Vote Kamala 2024. That's true. She will keep the chats flowing.
That's disgusting.
Orthobra Andrew. To all my Orthodox Christian brothers out there, please pray for Peyton, whose funeral was today, and pray for St. Varus, as he is the patron saint of those who die outside the church. Well, I'm sorry to hear of your loss. And of course, God bless you and God bless Peyton and all the best and prayers for Peyton. And thanks for supporting the show. Griff Nizzle says, WTF, Comrade 6, you're out of uniform, disgusted, disappointed, unsubbed, etc. I often wear this, like this plain charcoal gray tee while streaming. I don't know what, I didn't know I was breaking code, but I guess I must be. Thank you, sir. Daniel Yeager, I think Biden's on the Trump train now. He's chosen his legacy over party. He's 3 for 3 now in undercutting Kamala. He's still politically savvy. Yeah, I buy into the fact that he hates the people that did this to him, and for one reason or another, he just can't help but damage them. I think there's something like that going on. TJS says, I can't watch live, but will listen at work. Keep up the great work. Well, thank you, and thanks for your support for the show as well. Thank you, TJS. Joe Schmo.
I am not going to be niggardly.
Trump could have really rounded off the bit if he had a bunch of Puerto Ricans jump out of the back of the garbage truck. I guess that he should have picked a Puerto Rican garbage truck driver or, implemented some sort of Puerto Rican influence. I think you're right. That could have been great. But still, A+ move, if you ask me. Jeff Slater says, she was clearing her throat too much. I hated it. The show was so good other than that. It had to happen. She had to go. I don't know. I mean, I guess some of that was going on, but that was not the reason. Papa Oso. Matt and I used to make love, but then he wanted to start topping 60% of the time. I offered to start buying half the rubbers for a 55-45 split, but he just didn't trust me. Tune in to Simpcast for more. Yeah, I guess if you want to find out all the juicy details, that's where you go. That's where you go to learn. Okay. I'm going, well, actually, there's just a couple here. I'll finish these up. We'll get into callers. M. Humongous. Matt, my guy, longtime listener, first-time contributor. Well, thank you. I have a business proposition that should bring you your hit piece. Where can we discuss? Banned on X and Instagram at the moment. You're still banned on X. You must be a spicy guy. You can always email me. The best way for anybody to contact me is email. I don't keep up with like every social media notification and all that. So Matt at mattchristiansenmedia.com. If you can't remember that, just type in mattis.gay and go to the contact page of my website. There's a box. You can send me an email that way. Joseph says, and thank you, Humongous. Joseph says, what do you say about the IEDs inside of Portland, Oregon ballot drop boxes? 450 plus ballots destroyed, a large Republican lead among early voters. Odd timing. I put that in my notes of possible topics to discuss tonight, and I just didn't have time to prep it. So I don't really know what exactly is going on there. There were 2 drop boxes one was destroyed by fire, this in Vancouver, Washington, north of Portland on the other side of the river. And then there was another one in Portland that was destroyed, but this just says damaged. So I'm not sure if it was by fire also, but they believe it's the same person that did it. And this is the thing about these drop boxes and stuff too. Nobody knows who did it, and you get both sides pointing fingers at the other. Progressives think that conservatives did it. It's a MAGA crime. Conservatives think that progressives did it because, as you say, maybe there's a bunch of Republican early voters now and they want to take that out. When you have insecure voting methods like this, it's just a box sitting on the street that anybody can walk up to. That is the natural consequence. And so it sucks. I wish we could all agree that we ought to have in-person, day of, higher security methods to make sure that nobody can just walk up and Molotov a box of ballots. And now what a mess. You don't know whose ballots those are. The people who voted maybe still think they voted, then they didn't. Even if they know, hey, I put my ballot in that box and it got burned down. How do you prove it? How do you show to election officials? I guess maybe they'd give you another ballot because they know that they didn't receive a ballot of yours. Maybe that's how that gets resolved, I guess. But it's still just a mess of extra steps, verification, complication. Yeah. We think we're making things easier when we do these things. We're not. We're making them much more complicated because they're much less secure. So we'll see what happens with that. Thank you, Joseph. I appreciate it. But with that, let's see what we have for callers. First up is Citron. I got to get myself unmuted. Citron, are you there?
Oh, hey, Matt, first time caller.
Well, thanks for
Hey,
calling
can you
in.
hear me?
Sorry to surprise you a little bit, but what's on your mind?
Oh, not honestly, kind of a bit of a deer in headlights situation. I was actually mid talking with the guy who helps you out with the show. I actually was thinking about the election, and I'm wanting to be white-pilled on the idea that any of the hanky shits that the Dems do is not going to be enough to overcome Trump's basically wins with the voters. What do you think?
So just so I understand, you think Trump's momentum is so strong that they won't be able to fortify their way out of it? Is that what you're saying?
It's a mix between optimism and I kind of just thinking about it. I don't know what the balance is of which. I'm hoping that there's enough reason to think that way, but a lot of it is admittedly me just kind of hoping it goes that way.
I've been thinking about what I'm going to say, because usually the Sunday before an election, I have like an official prediction. In years past, I've done the electoral map, and I've had, try to predict the result. But after the last time, I don't even want to waste my time with an electoral map, because I'm convinced that's only half the picture. Like, I don't think that anyone will believe anything other than a Trump win in terms of the vote. I think this time the momentum is so much clearer. The polling is so much clearer. I don't think people will believe it if we're presented with a Kamala Harris electoral win result, as in the votes are more for her than they are for Trump. I don't think people will believe that. I think Trump will win the vote. That is my prediction on that. But the reason I say that's half the picture is because there's going to be a Democrat response. There is no world in which these people just say, "Oh man, we lost fair and square. Time to look at what we did wrong and try harder next time." There is absolutely something they have up their sleeves to stop that man from walking into the White House, into the Oval Office again. I don't know what that is, but I know they're not going to let him do it. So my official prediction is, I think Trump wins the Electoral College. I think he wins the presidency as prescribed by the law, by the Constitution. But that, I have no idea what the Democrat response is going to be. And it's not going to be to lay down. That much I know.
I wonder if the FBI have any more mentally disturbed people that they haven't been talking to.
Yeah. In fact, I think they tried to recruit me for a second. They were emailing me for a little while.
Yeah. By the way, any developments on that? If
No.
you care.
No. I received an email from the FBI in early September after all that tenant stuff, and I told them that, I'm not talking to you without a lawyer, and I don't want to hire a lawyer to talk to you. So thanks, but no thanks. And I didn't hear back from them other than, okay, if you change your mind, come back to us. There are some things moving on the tenant stuff in general, if you're interested in that, but I don't know if that's where you wanted to go with the question at all.
Nah, you just had me kind of thinking about it. That's really about it.
Yeah.
I did actually have a little bit of an interesting tidbit. You had briefly, I think, brought up Jan 6 a bit ago.
Mm-hmm.
There was just a news story a little bit ago. Do you know the show Bob's Burgers?
I am aware of it. I never really watched it. Is it still going or is it over?
It's still going, I'm pretty sure.
H. John Benjamin, that dude?
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that his name? Did I get it right or did I get it wrong?
No. Yeah. John H. Benjamin's the
John
main
H.
voice
Benjamin?
actor.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. I can't remember I think it's H. John Benjamin. I don't know.
Oh, it is H. John. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But no, one of the voice actors, not him, but one of the voice actors has been convicted and sentenced to a year in prison for January 6th.
Oh, really? I didn't know there was a connection there.
Yeah, the guy that plays Jimmy Pesto.
And he's only just now. When was he sentenced? Is this recent?
I've seen the articles pop up just recently. I know that he was there about a year or so ago. They were bringing up bringing up his sentencing, but I think he just got convicted recently.
Okay, yeah, I'll have to look him up. What's his name one more time? I'm going to save this for later.
Oh,
Well, I'll just look up Bob's Burgers, January 6th.
Oh yeah, I guarantee you'll get that.
Yeah, Bob's.
Yeah,
here we go. You're right. An actor known for roles. Let me pull this up so the audience can see it. An actor known for roles in the animated series Bob's Burgers was sentenced Monday to a year. Yeah, this just happened. You're right. A year in prison for his connection to January 6th. His name is Jay Johnston. And yeah, Jimmy Pesto is the character. So
yeah,
great mustache. That's cool.
Oh, terrific mustache. Like very, very, very few men can pull off an actual mustache like that.
Yeah,
he does.
All right. Well, thanks for the call and the information. I appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Have a great night.
Good talking with you.
Okay, let's talk to Tom. Tom, are you there?
Yes, I am. How you doing?
I am well. What's on your mind, sir?
Oh, I don't know. I just, if there was only some way I could just skip ahead the next 6 days, get the Tuesday vote, and then hopefully get a quick resolution to who actually wins.
So you're in day of voter?
Yes.
Is that required by law in your state, or is it your choice?
No. I just want to march in there on election day and do it.
Are you comfortable sharing which state? I don't want to put you on the spot.
New Jersey.
Okay, New Jersey. Are you worried about like day of crowds or anything like that?
We're not a huge town, so I think we'll be pretty good. And I'm just right across the street from the polling place, so I just have to walk over to the local school and vote there.
Yeah. Well, good for you, man. That's I'm guilty of doing exactly what I just talked about not doing, which is they make the ballot available by mail. So that's what happened in my case. I probably should take it in person instead of trusting the post office to handle it for me. That said, I'm not super concerned about the direction of my state in the presidential, but we do have a very competitive Senate state here, or Senate race, and then we got some local races that are consequential too. But yeah, that's
we have the Menendez. We're voting for a replacement for Menendez.
That's right. Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, he resigned after his gold bar scandal.
Right.
Yeah.
He was going to run as an independent, and then I guess after the sentencing or whatever, he decided, I don't think this is going to work.
So who's running in New Jersey now for that seat?
Well, actually, it's our local representative, Andy Kim, is the Democratic, and Republican is Curtis Bashaw, who I listened to the debate between them. Curtis Bashaw froze in the first 5 minutes, like he was diabetic or something, and he needed his medicine. He just literally froze. Andy Kim saying, "Are you all right? Are you all right?" And they had to cut away for 10 or 15 minutes, and then they came back and he finished the debate. So I don't know how that's going to go.
Well, was there something medically wrong with him, or what happened?
They never said anything. I never heard anything about it. He did do the debate. He finished the debate. He sounded okay during the debate. It was just that at the beginning of the debate, the first question, he started talking, and then he stopped.
The Wikipedia photo of him on the New Jersey Senate election article is a terrible. How is this the best photo of this guy?
He doesn't. He's not an impressive looking guy now.
This looks like it was taken on a Motorola Razr in 2005. That's what this photo looks like. But all right. Okay, but that's almost certainly going to go to Kim, the Democrat, I would assume, right? Or is this actually remotely competitive?
Right. Although, Kim keeps saying, "Oh, well, he's a rich Republican. He donated $2 million of his own money for the campaign." Yeah, you've been telling us that for 6 months now. If that's all the money he's got, he's not doing very much. I haven't seen one commercial for him, one sign in a yard, anything.
Let's see if there's any polling. I'm going to look that up. Well, maybe you have. Do you have any other thoughts you wanted to discuss this evening outside of that race?
what was the other thing? Oh, is there some sentencing that comes up after the election? Wasn't there something pushed off until November?
You talking about
so
Trump?
What might happen between after the election, win or lose, with that?
Yeah, the Trump sentencing in the New York Stormy Daniels case was postponed until after the election.
Right, and I think jail is on the possibilities for that.
Still is, although how that would be resolved in the case of Trump being elected president, I assume they would have no choice but to delay the serving of the. I don't know how that would work. Like, would they sentence him and then they can't really put him in jail because he's the president, so they have to wait till after the term to resolve it? I don't know how that would get fixed, if at all. And then, of course, Trump is. The thing about a prospective Trump presidency, I don't think that Trump is like mentally incapacitated or something. I don't think he's in Biden's state of decay, but Trump is an old man, and it is certainly possible, knock on wood, but let's say Trump gets elected and like 2 years from now has a heart attack or something and dies in office, which is totally foreseeable given his age. Nobody would believe it, you know? Not only would we have the chaos of losing a president, but nobody would believe that's what happened, even though it's perfectly plausible for like an 80-year-old man to have a heart attack and die.
Even if he was standing in front of 10,000 people and clutched his chest.
Yes.
Like, oh, my heart,
I wouldn't believe it. I'd be like, nah, it's bullshit. He was going to live forever. There must be something else at play. I know the Democrats did this. But yeah, I mean, it's like, but back to your point, if Trump, they do this, he's elected, they do this sentencing, they're not going to put him in New York State prison while he's the president of the United States. Even if he serves his term on the other side of it, how old would he be? Like 82 or something on the other side of another term in office? Right. Are they really going to like put an 82-year-old or whatever he'd be in prison for what is a dressed up misdemeanor? And it really, at that point, it doesn't really do anything because it doesn't, he's termed out as far as being a president. I assume he's not going to try to be a politician in any other form after that. It would just be raw punishment. It would just be raw vengeance to put a man at that age in prison for such a stupid crime, such a non-crime, a crime they dressed up and made up into a felony. But anyway, all right. So, any other thoughts before I let you go?
Something else with respect to that 35 count. Oh, have you heard of the appellate court talking to the New York attorneys about that? They're really like, this is bullshit. You've never done this to anybody else. Nobody is damaged.
Is this in the same case or something else?
The same case, yeah. So they may all get overturned anyway.
Oh, I guess I haven't followed the appeal. I know Trump appealed, or there was some appeals process. I guess I didn't know there was development in that or movement in that.
Oh yeah. It was. Okay. It was like last week. They were talking about it. There was 5 appellate judges. They didn't even let the attorney for the state get started. As soon as she started talking, he's like, okay. The cases that you've cited, they all seem to be equally, sophisticated entities who've done their due diligence and nobody is damaged and do not involve harm to the public. So why do you think you should be able to do this?
Okay, so it sounds like the appellate judges are pretty skeptical then.
Right.
That's the other variable. It's not just how the sentencing would be handled with a president-elect. It's, does that even survive on appeal? And I suppose ultimately that could even be appealed to the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, if it worked its way through the New York State court system.
Right.
So there's a lot of interest ahead on that front too. But all right, man. Well, Godspeed out in New Jersey, and I will see you on the other side of the election, sir.
Hope to see you Friday.
Yeah. Wait, what? What's on Friday? What are you talking about? Oh, Bible study, of course. I was like, yeah, I'll be there.
Exactly.
Yeah. How do I forget that? Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Fwen is up next. Fwen, are you there?
I certainly am. Hello.
Well, what's on your mind, sir?
Just want to say, happy to be here. Been listening since 2016 and figured I'd engage with the show a bit more in light of recent events.
Well, thanks for calling in. What do you got?
So just like a bit of a story that it's just, my father-in-law, he's a very organized guy. So he's been regularly reminding my wife and I, coming up, it's the last day to vote. It's the last day to vote. And I keep correcting him. It's actually called Election Day.
Yeah. Okay. So your point being that you explain what you mean by that to me.
Yeah. So just that, we've got this normalization, like the chaos of COVID allowed changes to be made and pushed, and they try to immediately solidify it as like the new normal. And while I don't expect like right away getting back to paper ballots and day of voting, necessarily even knowing the winner by the night of, it's like something to keep in mind. Don't have a short memory, and to continue to fight, like to undo all the changes of new normal that were made.
Yeah, and there's a weird paradox in that. Like as I mentioned, like I would be in favor of all of these additional security methods for voting. At the same time, because in my state they make a mail voting option available to me, and everybody's doing that anyway, I still do it, even though I'm sort of second guessing that. Like, I guess what I'm saying is, what do you think the proper way to navigate that is? Even though I would prefer much more secure voting methods in my state, do I have an obligation to vote in that way, or is it just a crapshoot where it's like, well, they make this available, so I might as well use it? What do you think?
Right. I think there's probably, a few approaches. You could just say that you're voting day of and use it as an opportunity, like when people bring up early voting and things, just to remind people that it's not the end of voting. It's actually called Election Day.
Yeah.
And even if you vote early or even vote by mail, just like to continue to normalize it in conversation and bring up the fact that this is a recent change, like as often as you can, just to plant the seed, to jog people's memory from way back the before times, like 5 years ago.
It is amazing how quickly new normals get established. And I remember, obviously there was the election stuff in 2020, but all the social stuff, all the social distancing nonsense, masking, arbitrary lockdowns, like walking only one way down the aisle. And everybody saying at the time, not everybody, there was plenty of pushback, but a lot of people who subscribed to this nonsense saying like, well, it's just a small gesture to show that we're all in this together. Why can't you just do this one little thing? It's like, because once you grant certain things as acceptable or normal, they easily actually do become new normals. And to the point that you're making, if you don't spend a little bit of time thinking critically about why you do the things that you do, or why you call it what you do, or just why the things in your life are the way that they are, those can actually be reshaped, redefined fairly easily if you allow them to be. And so I certainly take your point.
Yeah, I think along with like having the long memory is also being like low time preference. And, I'm seeing people, like it's always happens around elections, and every election is the most important election. And people are either doomers or, supreme white pilled or whatever. But I think a lot of this, I've seen like signs for Harris that say Harris, obviously.
Wait, you've seen a Kamala Harris sign in real life?
I have indeed.
What state is this?
This is Virginia. Honestly, there's quite a few, and I'm in a like pretty rural part. There's certainly more Trump signs, and I think a lot of them are cases of people are kind of given a sign to stick in their yard.
Yeah.
But the sign, one of them I've seen says Harris, obviously.
Yeah.
But that's not obvious. The thing that's obvious is not Trump, obviously. And I think like
that's a fair point.
Once Trump's no longer running, not only do we have to have this long memory, but like we have to have this low time preference to play the long game and be optimistic and hopeful about the benefits that have grown and the infrastructure that have grown, both in the ground game for Republicans, preparation for legal challenges to funny business going on in voting. I just think like there's a lot to be white pilled on. You're only looking for what's going to happen in the coming week. Like you're going to be ready to bawl your eyes out or pop the champagne and cheer, but we got a long fight ahead of us.
I was thinking about this earlier today because obviously I'm under no delusion that Trump is going to come in and save everything. And Trump is a man of flaws, just like anybody else. Not only is he a man of flaws, he's going to pick flawed people. We're not going to get this perfect president who's Superman, who's going to save everything. In fact, our system is designed specifically because no such person exists. But I was thinking about all the little things that could be coming that do matter. And speaking of your state, what's going on with the feds and the lawsuit against your state cleaning up the voter rolls. Just the mere fact of getting Merrick Garland out of the Justice Department alone is such a massive victory. There are things like that I can't wait for. It's I shouldn't be so thirsty to have the Justice Department scaled back to some semblance of sanity. Is that really a win, or is that just a return to normalcy? But these days, normalcy, everything is so twisted and backward that normalcy seems like this massive win. And maybe that's a problem of its own. Maybe I shouldn't, I don't know. I go back and forth in terms of, I'm neither black-pilled nor white-pilled about this. I try to be realistic, but the optimism and the pessimism kind of comes and goes. And I do, even though I'm excited for a lot of things and I think it looks good, I try to remember that what I'm actually excited for is supposed to be normal to the point that you're making. The old way that I am looking for is not actually this massive win. It's a return to what should be status quo.
So I'm looking for the correction. I don't just want to go back to the 90s. I'm not under some illusion that we didn't get here by trends that have been deeply rooted in legal precedent that's been going on through all the 1900s. So I get it as far as looking it's crazy that normal would be such a win, but I think really the infrastructure is being put in place for a correction.
Okay.
And not just return to normal.
When you say correction, do you, obviously I gather you mean that in a general sense, but is there what are the main issues that you're looking for a correction on?
Well, I mean, it's funny the distancing from Trump of Project 2025, but Project 2025 is full of a lot of good stuff, and it's just a good thing to see in that it's a catalog of people who can be trusted to be hired, who are conservative and not afraid to wield government power.
Yeah.
Because of the libertarian strain among Republicans, it's when we have the levers of power, we don't pull them and we don't do anything.
That's true.
So the correcting is not just I'm not using the levers against you. I'm using the levers to undo the damage that have been done.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's a lot of undoing to do. I guess. That's not a paradox. In DC. There's a lot of undone that needs to get done.
Yeah. And we're getting organized to do it. So.
Well, I sure hope so, man. I appreciate your call and your long time listen, and thanks for calling in.
Yeah. Thanks for taking the time.
All right. Next up, I got Bill. And then I'll have one more after that, I think. Bill, what's on your mind, man?
Hey, man, I have a lot on my mind, actually. I got about 4 things real quick.
Okay.
So first is the pearl clutching from the Democrats over this garbage thing when Puerto Rico has this historic issue in the last 6, 7, 8 years or whatever of trash. And
so it is literally garbage, is what you're saying, not even metaphorically.
Yeah, if you look this up, they've had this issue. There's stories going back at least to 2018. So this whole thing's ridiculous. Tony Hinchcliffe is a comedian who is the master of the roast, and he has roasted Snoop Dogg. So this isn't a racist thing. It's just a hard joke. But if you listen to it in the moment, the Republicans or whomever, I mean, I'm an independent. I will always be an independent, but I lean, constitutionally. And if you listen, these people they cut off in silence and they kind of gasp, right? And so then you get the Joe Biden reaction where he says supporters, and I know you went over the change of the apostrophe, but honestly, possessive or plural does not matter in the way the sentence is structured. It doesn't matter, because if it's possessive, it can, and originally it was possessive plural.
That's right. Yeah.
Which means all right, which is huge. But if it's possessive, it can't just be possessive of Tony Hinchcliffe, because the sentence doesn't actually make sense if you look at it grammatically.
Okay, how so?
Right?
I'll bring it back up. What's the grammatical problem?
Well, I'll have to look at it.
I could read it back
I'm
to you
going
if
to
you
be in a
want.
lag with you, so but if you can bring up the full sentence, I don't think it makes sense grammatically possessive. But I don't want to linger on it because, like I said, I have a couple points. You can check it out afterwards, whatever the viewers can. Further on that, the whole thing that this is a Nazi rally in 1939, that Nazi rally happened on February 20th, so the dates aren't related. Not only that, but it happened in like the second or third Madison Square Garden, because the Madison Square Garden where Trump's at is the fourth Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
And it's not even in the same location as that other place.
Right.
And then, of course, Bill Clinton accepted the DNC's nomination in 90 or 91, whatever it was, there at Madison Square Garden.
I didn't know that.
Well.
So that was, he got the nomination of the Nazi Party back then.
Right, of course. So, again, none of this makes any sense. And what's really interesting is, again, the pearl clutching after everyone has been called a Nazi and everything else forever, right? And they're trying, what they're trying to do is demoralize people from voting and whatever else, and all these people are gaslit to hell. And frankly, I think you're an idiot at this point if you're trying to vote against this, or just extremely propagandized. But
if you're trying to vote against Trump, or vote what way?
Yeah, against Trump. If you're trying to vote for your own enslavement with Kamala and the DNC, I mean, you have to realize the stuff they've been doing has been going on through the CIA and the FBI for decades. The FBI has not so much targeted Americans until the Clinton administration, right, with Waco and all that stuff. That ATF is involved, of course. And then the Obama administration, we see the weaponization of the DOJ against journalists. Then the Biden administration comes in, we see the weaponization of the DOJ once again against Trump and Trump supporters, January 6ers, of course. There's the whole pipe bomb thing. There's all these things, like, the pipe bomb specifically, like that story that got thrown away that was probably supposed to be a fake assassination attempt against Kamala, right?
That's your official theory on that it was a bungled fake.
This is Dan Bongino's theory, actually.
Okay, I don't think I've heard him talk about that, but that would explain why the guy has disappeared, never been caught. They can't recover the phone data, all that nonsense.
Right. But Atlas Intel right now has Trump up, winning by 2.5 points, winning the popular vote, winning 6 of the 7 swing states, and at the same time, there is all kinds of rigging going on. And I will email you after the show, Matt, my personal Facebook, because I've been spamming it. I don't really do Facebook anymore other than like family pictures and whatever. But I've been spamming it with stuff from Twitter. And there is a Twitter, I didn't realize this till I started like trying to look for just election fraud this morning, seeing if there's any going on, if anyone was catching anything. There's a Twitter community that Elon has set up to report all this election fraud stuff. There's all kinds of stuff going on. There's stuff in Bucks County where people who are Democrats are posing as some sort of election, some sort of election coordinators or whatever, and they're intimidating voters, and they have cut off voting periods and times. Again, I don't know about all the legal stuff.
Wait, so they're giving like false election information?
Well, no. There's a lot of stuff going on. So there are signs and around that are basically supporting Kamala. There have been flyers that have been sent out that have said Kamala supports small business. Donald Trump doesn't.
Okay.
This all also seems to be from the government itself. Again, man, like when I speak, and I know you've doubted me in the past with things, but I'm telling you, when I speak with authority and facts in reality. And I'm a guy that just absorbs a lot of information, and I'm not always the most eloquent. Right now,
the only thing I think that we were at odds about was the O'Keefe stuff.
Yes,
but,
I know.
Yeah,
I know. I even told my wife about this, but I think you came around on that, didn't you?
I obviously you know, I know that without revealing too much, I know that you have connections much more so than I do. So, you know,
Yes.
I definitely can understand where you're coming from. You know, like
I'm
I
not
would say that I
against-
still have
I'm not against James. James
Yeah.
does great work. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But I felt like he threw 70 employees under the bus.
Yeah.
So, and that story is different than how he sold it. And I felt like he pulled a publicity stunt. And I have insider information to suggest that.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, and I know you do. So I definitely don't want to dismiss that outright. I think my only thing was you know, Veritas to me appears to have kind of bungled the situation too, but that obviously
They absolutely did. James is also a master of media. He trained under Breitbart, man.
Yeah.
I mean, Breitbart was a master of media. He understood leftist propaganda, you know? So,
well,
anyways,
in closing, what's your you got any official prediction or official call you want to make before Tuesday?
well, if they can't steal it, Trump wins the popular vote. Trump wins. He might. I don't know about 6 or 7 of the swing states, but he's going to win the majority of them.
Okay.
I think people are fed up. I think there's a lot of people who are propagandized and disinformed, of course, and there's going to be a huge mental breakdown, worse than we saw in 2016. And there will be violence. There will be a reaction, unfortunately, and I hate that that's a fact. And they might just steal it. Also, remember, Jamie Raskin has straight out said that he will not certify the votes. Now, I hope, knowing what an idiot he is, watched Thomas Massey school him a couple weeks ago on some information. In any case, I don't remember the particulars of it, but anyways, like the reality is we are ruled by an oligarchy. Princeton did a study back in 2014 about this, and it is a fact. We've been ruled by an oligarchy for a long time. A deep rabbit hole. You know, Frank could tell you all about it.
Oh, he knows them
I love
all.
Frank.
Yeah, yeah.
Dude, I know most of them.
Yeah.
Frank goes into areas that I think are ridiculous, but I appreciate that he platforms those people.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of truth to most of the stuff that he has on there. Guys like Jay Dyer, for instance.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of truth to that, and you know, like the Tavistock thing, and again, it's not even that some people are sitting in the background going, you know, planning things. It's that ideas catch fire, people get inspired, and people like power. These things are just inherently human, and history is full of it. So I'll close on that, bro.
All right, man.
I've talked enough.
Yeah, thank you for your call. All the best to you and your family, and I'll see you in the post-election world, I hope. Thank you, man.
Yeah, man. Well, I'll be calling in more often, I hope.
Cool.
So
yeah, anytime. Thank you. Have a good night.
You too.
Okay, last call tonight is going to go to Rusty Culture. Rusty, are you there?
Yes, I am.
What's on your mind, sir?
Not much. I'm just curious what we should call ourselves. Are we Russian? Are we Nazis? Are we bags of garbage now?
Well, are you? Who's we? You and me, or like the general? Who's the we here?
I guess that I'm not assuming that you're supporting Trump, but you know.
Oh, you're just talking like all Trump supporters.
Yes.
Well, I assume that like I mean that's the weird thing is we're Russian and Nazis. You know, we're like we're a weird World War II hybrid of the Red Army and the Wehrmacht. And that's the contradiction we live. But
it is.
What? Sorry, go ahead.
One of the interesting things I find about it, and just looking at the many ways that they've labeled us and insulted us, and how we just take that and own it, and it kind of harkens back to how this country was originally formed. If you look at kind of like the song Yankee Doodle Dandy. That was a horrible insult. And we just, yep, that's us. What else you got?
Is that the origin of the term was an insult against
Yes,
American
it was
patriots
like 3
or what?
insults. It was like, no, it was just 3 insults wrapped into one.
What were the 3 insults? Do you know? Now I'm interested in the history of the term.
One of them was kind of being a fool or a moron.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just insults of the time, and they decided to kind of wrap them all together.
Yeah, you're right. The term Yankee has been used as an insult since the 1700s when British soldiers and officers used to mock American colonists. Yeah. And we made a baseball team out of it. In fact, my friend Frank was just referenced by the prior caller. My sources say that Frank is at Game 5 of the World Series tonight. And it looks like the Yankees are winning. So the Yankees still have life, even though they were down 3-0. Now, I hate the Yankees, the baseball team, but I appreciate the origin of the term. It's kind of it always is fun to take a term of insult like that and own it and make it a bit. It's such a great way to neutralize an attack and come out as the winner. And it's almost always hilarious. And Trump is doing that really well right now. Whoever is this move and the McDonald's move were both A+. The McDonald's move wasn't exactly the same thing. It was based on proving a point about Kamala rather than responding to an insult. But whoever is behind these kind of trolley stunts that he's doing, that person deserves a lot of credit if and when he wins.
I do find just the little things, the little trolley bits that he does, even if they're just innocuous, kind of like the McDonald's thing.
Yeah.
It's the overreaction that they come back with that makes it really entertaining, because there was all these insults that the mainstream media came about how this is degrading of a presidential candidate to work.
It wasn't really open, and he didn't really work at McDonald's. And it's like, oh, well, okay, I can't believe you're telling me that you didn't just allow randos to walk up to a former president and presidential candidate openly. I'm shocked to learn that. But since we're talking about proving who did and did not work at McDonald's, I noticed there's still no substantiation from Kamala Harris. And even it's like I said, even the one job that I quit outright, and I never put on a resume, and nobody who I've ever applied to a job before has ever known I worked there, was Target, because I only worked at Target in Beaverton, Oregon for 3 months during my junior year summer in college. And so I'll tell you I worked at Target, even though there's not a lot of record of me doing that. But the thing is, if you wanted to vet my time at Target, there are emails, there are people whose names I remember, at least their first names. There are ways to verify that. And I could show you that I did. If Kamala Harris actually worked at McDonald's, there would be someone who would remember her. Like in the same way that if you presented those people I worked at Target with in the summer of 2009 with a picture of me and a name, they'd say, oh yeah, I remember that guy. Oh yeah, we worked this job. We stocked that shelf. It actually is very easy to verify if she just took the 5 seconds to do it. And the fact that she doesn't, I know it's a little more difficult because it was like the early 80s or whenever that was. It's not exactly the same. But the fact that that whole stunt happened and still they have no substantiation for the core claim at the origin of it. Yeah, I mean, the whole thing was hilarious on its own, but the fact that it was proving a point about her lies was just perfect. It was really well done.
It was a ballsy move, because all it would take is some type of substantiation to blow his claim out of the water.
Yes. Yeah.
And they just went past it because it's like, yeah, we can't do that.
Yeah. And she just doesn't talk about it. She just kind of, okay, I guess he won the McDonald's war, and that's about it. Then there was all that stuff with the McDonald's E. coli outbreak. It's you get tinfoily about that at all? You think those are related events?
I haven't heard that, so I couldn't.
Well, right after Trump went to McDonald's, suddenly there's an E. coli outbreak at McDonald's. Like around here in this state, I went down to McDonald's for the first time in forever because I had to try one of these chicken Big Macs, and it was all right. I think the Big Mac works better as a beef burger, but I had to know. But when I was down there, you can't get quarter pounders, you can't get double quarter pounders or whatever it is, because the onions have E. coli in this state. So you go to McDonald's, you can't get those burgers because of an E. coli outbreak. And I guess the tinfoil would be, is the E. coli thing some sort of response to or some sort of punishment for the Trump stunt?
is an interesting tinfoil hat.
Yeah.
Who knows? There's so many of them, and it's fun just to list some of those off and just kind of think about them for a while. Even if for the most part, there's pretty much no way that is serious. But what if it was?
Well, in many ways, we're not a serious country anyway, so why bother being too serious anymore? But all right, man, do you have any thoughts before I let you go?
Probably the last thing. I was just you might not know the channel Jack's Films, but
rings a bell, but I don't know it well.
He's made a campaign of kind of going against the reactors that don't really do anything.
Mm-hmm.
So he reacts to their reactions.
Okay.
And he has made his own co-host, which is just a cartoon version of him known as a react bot, and it just has a list of reaction phrases that he has punched into it.
Yeah.
So it's like anytime he needs a response, he could just click a button and
I got a bunch of buttons that are to the theme of the co-host on this show. You won't be able to hear them, but the audience can.
Boo! Fucking nigger.
That one's pretty
you might be able
good.
to do something like that.
Yeah, I could use. I got lots of slur adjacent ones.
N-word is the N-word. You know what the N-word is?
Anyway, I'll have to scan through my list of buttons and see if that idea is workable. All right. Thank you for the call, man. All the best. Appreciate it.
You too.
Okay, that'll do it on callers this evening. Appreciate all of you who called in. If you didn't get in tonight, but you're trying to, of course, my plan is to continue calls as a regular feature of the Wednesday stream. Maybe I'll even mix them in on Sunday sometimes, but I'll always tell you at the top of the show what the plan for calls is, and I'll get you next time. So thanks for patience, and thanks for contributing to the show. Let's catch up with our super chatters, and we'll call it a night. Over on Rumble, Steve OUK says, let's give him the benefit of the doubt and cheer Biden for completing a sentence like a big boy. He really did it. You're right. That was a big accomplishment for him. Likes to watch. Hey, Matt, I wanted to thank you for the show. 5 days ago. God, I got to figure out this sound.
4 days ago, 5 days ago.
That's on my to-do list of technical issues to resolve. I don't know why it skips, but it's getting annoying. Anyways, thank you, Steve. Likes to watch. Hey, Matt, just want to thank you for the show and wish Tim a happy birthday and say that I really appreciate the chat here on Rumble. Take care, man. Well, thank you for supporting the show, keeping it operational, and Godspeed out there during this fateful week. GR has got a triple here. Hey, bitch, you're doing the same show both days. It's just a mini show. Can we get a half Chinese spy, the half Chinese spy back? It's really gone downhill without her. Well, as I described on Sunday, we're going to have more personalities mixed in. We're going to do some more things with the show on the other side of the election. But if you think it's really gone down, there's a lot of options for your view and your listen. You're invited to listen to whatever you want. If I don't hold your attention, but thanks for supporting the show. GR token S word. This is the, he also says this is the Bozeman Martian again. GR has taken enough punishment for you. Who's next? Look at you now in Australia. Watch your bum. I have no idea what that even means, but says if Hassan didn't want to be wished well on his exploding page, he had this exchange on CNN, then maybe he shouldn't have one. Do we know that he has one? Maybe he shouldn't be a member of Hezbollah or a jihadi suicide bomber Muslim terrorist. That was a crazy exchange. Yeah, you had the guy Mehdi Hassan calling conservatives, Republicans, Nazis, and then the other guy jokes like, "Well, I hope your beeper doesn't go off," with reference to the Israeli op against Hezbollah a few weeks or months ago, whenever that was. Yeah, I mean the point being that he can call everyone Nazis, he can smear everyone, but if one person again makes like a joke about his tendencies or allegiances, it's the end of the world. He's owed an apology, and the other person's kicked off the show, but not him. So yeah, that was a crazy one. Dangerous Space is friendly call screener. For those people who are asking, this isn't like the old call-in show. Given it's half news, half calls, it will stay on YouTube. The old show was removed from YouTube because there was no visual component, right, Matt? I mean, kind of. It was obviously not a visual show. We weren't doing clips. I wasn't going through news. But the other reason that it wasn't on YouTube is because at the conception of that show, I really wanted a product that would incentivize people to go subscribe on the podcast audio platforms. And because, of course, when we were taking nothing but calls, some of those calls would be fairly spicy or about things that were kind of Susan bait at the time. And so it was kind of win-win to protect ourselves from Susan's predations against commentary that wasn't even ours. It was, the callers. But we could still interact and we could still have those conversations while also taking content and incentivizing people to subscribe on an audio platform and listen to the show, or at least have that connection to the show available in case we got axed in ways A, B, and C. So that's really why the old call-in show was live only, and then I'd put it on the audio platforms. Going forward, I just don't know that that's the aim anymore. Obviously, I like it when people subscribe on different places, and I want to have different avenues for reaching people. But I'm not necessarily looking to push people to the audio platforms anymore. If we have some Raju Mohan bait, you can kind of take care of that on a case-by-case basis. And these days, I'm more just concerned with getting people the show and the product wherever they may wish to consume it. So it's just my thinking or approach has changed a little bit. But yeah, I do intend to just leave these shows up, at least for now. The Sunday show and the Wednesday show will be available, both video and audio, wherever you want to find them. Thank you, Dangerous Spaces. We're good on DLive, good on Odyssey. Let's refresh over on YouTube and Tippy, and we'll call it an evening. Let's see. I left off with Griff Nizzle. Oh, yeah. Okay. This must have been about the uniforms. I thought you had forgotten to put on a costume for Halloween, but then the chat corrected me. Best impression of a homosexual man I have ever seen. Well, I'm glad I was convincing. Thank you.
That's a big game, man.
I nailed it, I guess. Ooga Boogaloo. Thank you, Griff Nizzle. That's what we love about old Kamala. She will make your willy brown. She probably will. You're right.
That's disgusting.
I'm sure she's made a few willies brown in her day. She'll do absolutely anything. Mike A. Do you think if Trump wins, Biden will suddenly get too sick to serve as president so that Kamala can officially have the title of president for even a few months? That would be hilarious. This lame duck placeholder female president. Man, talk about like dishonorable ways for the glass ceiling to be broken on this technicality of lame duck retirement. Doesn't even matter. That would be hilarious. So maybe you're onto something, Mike. I hadn't thought of that, but the thing is Biden hates Kamala and the rest of them. So is Biden willing to give her that reward? But the question is, that even a reward? Is that a title you want? I was the most asterisk president of all time and the first female president in only the most technical sense possible and the least consequential way possible. I'm not sure you even want that. It's almost insulting. But then again, so is Kamala's entire career. So I wouldn't put it past her. All right, we're good on Odyssey, good on DLive, good on Rumble, and good on YouTube and Tippy. So I think we can call it a stream there. Let me double check Odyssey. I know I missed those before, but it looks like we're good there too. I just don't want to miss them again. Okay, well, that will do it for Wednesday production. Thank you for tuning in. Very much appreciate you being here. If you missed any part of the show, of course, it'll be up on demand very shortly. And you can also catch the show on the audio platforms if you head on over to the podcast page of my website. Those are all updated now, mattchristiansenmedia.com/podcast. Speaking of anything else show-related, mattchristiansenmedia.com. I'll be back with a video later in the week. I'll be back on Sunday before the election, and then it's right into election time. Have a great week. Until then.